As designers, you've probably heard about HTML before, but what exactly is it? Let's dive in. So HTML is an acronym, and it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And there are two big concepts here that we need to take away. There's this idea of hypertext, and there's this idea of a markup language. So hypertext is this idea that we can link information or content together to form a web or a collection and have relationships between information. So that's the first thing that HTML allows us to do. It's sort of the backbone for all the connectivity that we see on the web, where pages and websites can connect to one another. And then we have this idea of a markup language. So any design that we do on the web, any website or web app or anything like that, has content. And we need to have a way to describe that content to the browser or the computer so it can interpret that and display it the way we want to. So markup language, that is this idea that we can describe the information that we're giving to the browser in a way that it can understand and parse and display as we intended. So those two big concepts. Hypertext, we can link all this information together. Markup language, we can describe the information we're giving to the computer so we can present it the way we want it to. So what is HTML used for? I think it helps to look at an example here. So this is the dive.club website, which Rid put together. It was phenomenal. If you're not listening to it, I recommend it. But we have Dive here. And as you can see, this is a website really nicely designed. We could probably imagine ourselves doing something like this in Figma and being really happy with the end result here. But everything on this page, all this content, is actually represented as HTML for the browser to interpret. So if we go ahead, we do a little right click here, and then we do inspect, what we can see is the HTML on the page here. So we can close some of this so it's less overwhelming. But as we can see, we have literally right here, it says HTML, and then we have a body, and then we have a div, and then we have all of the information inside of it. And this is exciting, right? Every single website, web app, piece of web technology that we consume from the browser is at its most fundamental level HTML, because everything is content, everything is information, and the way we communicate information to the browser is with HTML, and that's what we're using it for. And if you're looking at this right now, and you're sort of thinking, this looks kind of familiar, well, that's because it looks an awful lot, in my opinion, like the layer list in Figma. And that's a really, really good bridge for us as we start learning more about HTML. So coming back over to Figma here, I want to go ahead and show the UI for us. And why don't we take a look at this component? So we have this card, right? And if we look at this in our layer list, well, we have content. And we have these little toggles, just like we did over here, right? We can open these up and look at the information. So we're actually kind of already writing some HTML. Not exactly, we're not using the syntax, but this idea of we need information in the page on our designs. We add it to the board here, the canvas, and then we describe it. And we give it human readable labels. Here we say this is the title and the subtitle, or we let Figma generate it, right? But this is the same idea. We want to describe the information that we're adding to the experience and organize it and nest it and structure it in a way that makes logical sense for ourselves and for the rest of the team to start using. So this is the gateway here. As a designer, what we like to think about when we're thinking about HTML is that everything that's happening over in our layer list is HTML. Every time that we are adding content to the page, we're adding text here, and we say hello. This is HTML. Anytime we want to add a frame or a rectangle, we are adding to the design. We are adding to the HTML in our experience here. So that's it in a nutshell, right? HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. Important to know, we're just going to say HTML from now on. But what I want you to take away and think about is HTML is our layer list, and we're going to describe that in code so a computer or a browser, because this is a web technology, can actually understand it, interpret it, and display it to our end users so we can end up with a really nice website.